The cloud.
Hello, I'm MariFran Korb, and I'm here to interview Gina-Dianne Harding about her new book, Walking in Wonder. And welcome, Gina-Dianne. I'm so glad you're here today. I'm, I'm
Thanks, Mary
thrilled.
Fran. I'm glad to be here. I'm really excited to talk about my book and to
Oh,
be here with you.
I'm thrilled that you wrote it, and I can't wait to hear more about it. So I'll start with the first question. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I've had a link with Mary Magdalene since I was about 10 years old
Mm,
when I had an experience with my father having a life-threatening illness.
mm,
And I happened to, while I was waiting for him and my to he was in the hospital. So I was waiting for word from my mother to hear how he was doing, and I was feeling quite anxious. And I happened to come
mm.
across our family Bible and the prayer book that we used, and it was right around Easter time. So I read the readings for the Easter service and found the story of Mary Magdalene. And I'd heard about her before because our family wasn't really religious, but we did go to church every Sunday. And so it felt like Mary Magdalene came to me when I was reading about her. And that I prayed to her to intervene, and I said that if my dad was um, got better, that I would be perfect and never do anything to upset him.
Oh dear.
And didn't realize until years later the impact that that had on my life, that
Mm,
promise. But
oh,
I was always felt really close to Mary Magdalene. As I said, it felt like she came and actually was comforting me. And my dad did get better. There was a miracle on Easter morning when
wow.
my our congregation was praying for him, and at that same time, the doctor came out of the waiting room or out of the intensive care to the waiting room where my mom was sitting and said, "He's decided to live. He's turned the corner, and
Oh,
he's going to get better." I'm getting
wow.
goosebumps just
Yes,
talking
I am
about it.
too.
And so from that time on, I had a relationship with Mary. And as I grew up, I started reading all the books I could find about her. At that time, they were nonfiction books, books by academics and scholars. There weren't books like Dan Brown's stories
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. But so from the time I was a teenager and from then on, I just was voracious in terms of what
Mm,
I could find about Mary. When I was even thinking about doing a master's thesis on her, when I was doing my Master of Divinity, and I decided I didn't want to write a story that was academic or a paper that was academic. And I wanted to write more personal way about her. And I started writing in 2011. I wrote a few books, and in about 2017, when I finished my last book, I was wondering what I should write about. And um, I had a interesting incident and ended up deciding that this was the time to write about Mary. It was rather synchronistic. And so I decided that it was time, and I was inspired. That's what inspired me to write about Mary.
super. It's a great topic. You know, she was my favorite saint, or is my favorite saint. And the reason is my name, I was born Mary Frances before I became Mary Fran. But Mary was the name everybody called me. And and my parents would want me to think like the Mary was the Blessed Mother. And that was just too holy for me. But Mary Magdalene, she was all right. She was real. So
Mhm.
yeah, I really get why she interests you, besides the fact that she may have saved your father.
Mhm, mhm. Yes, I agree. She really is a real person in my mind, and I
Yes.
think in many people's mind, they can relate to her for many reasons.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what magical synchronicities occurred when you wrote it? Well, but were there any others besides what you've said already?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit more about the what caused me to actually choose that time to write. I'd been gifted a reading with a tarot card reader,
Uh-huh.
and one of the cards that she drew was a, a card of a woman standing beside a boat, and there was a man in the picture. And looked like there was a mountain, and the tarot reader thought, oh, this is maybe the story, maybe your story is going to be about a native woman who was helping explorers. That was her interpretation of the card. And when we looked at the meaning of the card in the deck, it turned out that that was Sarah, and she was standing by Wirial Hill with Joseph of Arimathea.
Mhm.
And that's part of the story. Sarah is thought to be, in some legends, the story or Mary Magdalene's daughter. So
Oh.
when we saw that and we did a little bit more into the reading, it turned out that there were synchronicities that spoke of Mary Magdalene, and that it was my time to write about
Mhm.
her. So that was one. And I'll just share one other one, and then I got lots of synchronicities throughout that were about why I should continue writing. And one was, well, the TV would come on and the announcer would say things that were appropriate, like welcome or something like that. And I wasn't in the room at the time. I just heard this from another room. And there was also a time when uh, a hummingbird came, and that meant joy. And oh, the one that I remember the most is about a raven coming and landing very close to me. And when I looked up ravens, one of the stories about Raven was that King Arthur had turned into a raven, that he hadn't really died. And the story of King Arthur had to do with the search for the Holy Grail. And the Grail relates to Mary Magdalene, as the Grail being the cup that was used to catch Jesus' blood in from the crucifixion,
Mhm.
and that it came to England. Joseph of Arimathea brought it to England and hid it under the Tor, and that it was found, and then there was the hunt for the Grail wherever it had been put in England. So once again, I'm getting a little bit of a goosebump. So here was this raven who outlanded, and I was led through the various legends to link up again to what I was writing in my story. So
Wonderful. Wow. That's that's amazing. So what was the hardest part, writing this?
for me, I lost the manuscript. Um, my computer crashed, and it was almost completely written. And I had thought I had saved it, but it never was properly saved as one whole document. So I actually was quite discouraged and I stopped writing for almost a year. And then when I started again, I had to cobble it together from different emails I'd sent myself. And a lot of those were incomplete because the computer hadn't saved them all.
Goodness.
So it was like starting all over again,
Oh,
but I think that the book ended up being richer because of it. So, but that
oh,
was the hardest part.
that's quite a synchronicity.
Yes, yeah.
Well, what's your main message in this book? What do you want people to take away?
It's not a religious book, Mary Fran. It's a
Good,
book that's more about spirituality.
wonderful.
And it's about Mary Magdalene, and it covers her travels with seven followers, seven women who want to follow her around Galilee, and help other women learn about the way. And the way is living in higher consciousness, where life is not really a struggle. It's the way that you perceive things. You learn to live a life of inner peace, of joy, of freedom and well-being, and you have a fulfilled life. So the main message is that you can do this by connecting, and you connect with the Creator, however you see that greater power. You connect with your higher self, the best self that you can be, and you connect with your neighbor. And in the Mary's message, your neighbor is all sentient beings.
Yeah,
So it's the animals and the trees and the plants and the water. And so that would be the main message, is to love the creator, love yourself, love your neighbor.
yeah.
And it's in the context of Mary going, and we also hear about her stories of how she came to be the wise woman, the leader and the teacher that she was. She
Mm,
wasn't just a follower of Jesus or Jeshua ben Joseph, which was his name in Hebrew. Many people believe. Um, so Mary stands very much as her own uh, very important being in this story. And the sub message is that women were important, and that they could be a very critical part of their family um, dynamics, and they could make a great impact on the life of their family and their husband, and that they could live this higher conscious life, and help their family live this way as well. And if Mary had been given the respect and recognized for her skills, that perhaps women today, and through the ages, might not have um, been disrespected and disregarded as much
mm,
as they have been. And perhaps our world would even be a little different today if that had happened. I also hope that by people reading the book, that they will, uh, in a sense, change their perception, and that can, I believe, change history. And that's a whole topic that could take us an hour or so to discuss, but just
mhm.
planting that little seed that we can change history by changing our perceptions of it. So,
Yes, yes, yes. So you talked about what Mary was like, and and why you wrote about Mary. Anything else you want to say around that?
Um, just that I see her as an individual being. In the book, she actually was almost an equal partner with Jesus or Jeshua. They taught
Mhm.
together at times, and
Oh,
they both downloaded the information from the Creator about the way.
oh,
So she did a lot of, people will find in the book the work that she did to bring the way forward as a platform or a program that they taught the people of the Holy Land. So
my, that is impressive. That's quite earth-shattering to hear that she was equal, but at the
yeah,
time, even though you said that, or what I heard was that women had a higher place back then, or at least in that community, um, that didn't continue, and you know, it's a shame, that we lost that. We lost
mhm.
the honoring of females and what females have to give. So that's a
Exactly.
terrible,
Yeah.
terrible loss.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, a lot of this was my imagination too. It's a
Mm,
spiritual fantasy
right.
and alternate history. So
Okay.
I did do a
Yes.
lot of research, and it's based on not n- somewhat on the canonical gospels. There's only 12 references to Mary Magdalene in the Bible, but a lot of authors that have written and scholars that have written about her have gave me ideas, and as well as I said, my imagination or my communing with
Mhm.
Mary Magdalene as I wrote the story um, contributed to a lot of the ideas that are in the book. So
Yes.
people need
Yes.
to read it with that in mind, that especially I think a little bit with discernment, with open-mindedness, and it may not be for everyone, but
Mhm.
yeah.
But it sounds like you picked up something that it sounds like you were channeled. Was this what happened with you?
I wouldn't exactly call it a channeled book. What happened was, as I was writing, I would be given um, little scenarios,
Mm,
and I would write about these ideas or images that came to my mind or type about them. And oftentimes I type with my eyes closed to better um, reach the images of what I've been given. And so it wasn't, I wouldn't say exactly channeled, but it certainly, I felt of Mary Magdalene was my muse. The
mm.
characters came to life. Um, it was almost as if I was watching a play and I could hear them, Joshua and Mary talking. And
Your intuition really picked up, a sense of a woman that really did live. Um, Even if the times, the history weren't advantageous for women, she had something about her that allowed for her to be accepted as equal. And then Joshua, Jesus, was wise enough and aware enough to honor her. So beautiful.
oh, that's perfectly said, Mary, Mary Fran. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
are there any bonuses for people who buy this book?
There is, it's something that they can download, and
Oh,
it's uh, called now let me remember what it's called. It's a guide to Mary Magdalene's seven sacred followers or disciples. In book 2 of the series, they are called disciples. And so in this bonus, this gift, I'm calling them disciples, although throughout book 1, Mary calls them her followers. And so it's a way to get to know the characters in the book. In the first chapter, you meet them all at once, and so it can be a little confusing to figure out who's who. And the bonus gives you an insight. It's kind of a fun, almost like reading a yearbook of the different characters, what their favorite things are, what names they wish they had, what their astrological signs are, and their strengths and weaknesses, and what how they see themselves as um, evolving. So yeah, it's kind of a fun, and
wonderful.
yeah, I'm looking forward to people picking that up.
I can't
Um,
wait.
yeah,
I
yeah.
I want to get my copy and the bonus. So when is this delicious book being launched and when is it available?
Well, it'll be launched on January 29th. I'm going to tease people with the cover on January 17th, and so this may be coming out. You may be watching this after the cover has been
Mhm.
teased and revealed. The book itself is coming out on the 29th, and it'll be available on Amazon in paperback and possibly in as a Kindle book as well. The Kindle's being prepared as well, so if it's ready in time, it may be available for people who prefer the Kindle format.
All right, Gina-Dianne, thank you for this. It's wonderful to get to hear in advance all about your book, and I'm thrilled and just anxious to read it, you know. So looking forward to that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for telling us about that, about your book. And, I just look forward to all of that unfolding. Can't wait.
Thank you so much, MariFran. I really appreciate you talking to me today and asking me about the book.
My
It's been
pleasure.
a delightful interviewer, and I look forward to hearing what you think about the book once you've read it.
Okay, it's a deal.
Okay, take care.
Bye now.
Bye.